There's a lot that can affect the human body, but even science can't explain the strangest things that happen. Anything can happen to our bodies on both a mental and physical level, and while science can diagnose a lot of it, there remains a list of very rare and strange ailments that remain unexplained. If you ever got these, there would be no help for you, because although we have a name for them and what they cause, we have yet to explain why they occur. So here are 10 bizarre diseases science can't explain, part 2. Number 1 is sudden infant death syndrome. Sudden infant death syndrome, or SIDS, is highly feared by parents of newborns, since it can take life away so quickly and without any noticeable warning. This syndrome is given as a cause of death when a newborn infant dies without any evidence of smothering or choking, and an autopsy cannot provide any further explanation. SIDS is also known as crib death, since it usually happens when the child is sleeping. It's the cause of around 15,000 deaths yearly and continues to be the leading cause of death in babies between 1 month old and 1 year old. Making it worse is that for no known reason, the majority of SIDS cases occur when an infant is between 2 and 4 months of age. Since science has yet to explain why these infants die, it makes it impossible to prevent, making SIDS a continued fear of parents of newborn children everywhere, as it could strike at any moment. Number 2 is exploding head syndrome. Despite its name, exploding head syndrome does not actually cause heads to literally explode. That would be insane. Instead, it's a sleep disorder, classified as parasomnia, which causes you to have loud auditory hallucinations in your mind when you're about to fall asleep or wake up. Some of the noises that have been reported of those who suffer from this include bomb explosions, gunshots, firecrackers, thunderclaps, and loud roars. This can be extremely distressing to those who have been affected by it and can trigger body reactions from the stress and anxiety that it causes. It's also been known to cause heart palpitations and tachycardia, or rapid beating of the heart from the shock of the experience. Now, there is no actual ear pain involved from the loudness of the sounds, which points towards it being something to do with the brain rather than the ears. But scientists don't know how or why it happens, but they think it might have something to do with stress, improper sleep, or more serious brain issues. If you've ever heard very loud noises in your head before you wake or before you go to sleep, consult a doctor immediately. Although, unfortunately, the most that they could do for you is simply diagnose it. Number 3 is Alice in Wonderland syndrome. Also known as micropsia, Alice in Wonderland syndrome was named after Dr. John Todd in 1955, who likened it to the children's story by Lewis Carroll. If you're unfamiliar, the story involves Alice who, at one point, eats mystery food and a mystery drink, labeled Eat Me and Drink Me, which causes her to grow and shrink drastically. Her change in size shifted her perspective, and ordinary things became unusually big or small. This is exactly what happens if you get micropsia. You'll experience periods of visual distortion, which causes your eyesight to shrink things within your vision, sort of like looking the wrong way through binoculars. In addition to vision issues, some who experience this syndrome have lost their sense of time and perceive events as if they are moving in slow motion. This odd syndrome has a large variety of possible causes and associations with things like migraines, seizures, brain trauma, and drug use, but unfortunately there is no determined cause for it, leaving researchers completely stumped. Number 4 is cyclical vomiting. People with this issue will vomit and experience extreme nausea for a certain period of time, ranging from hours to even days. After an episode of cyclical vomiting, the symptoms will disappear for weeks and months, but they can reoccur for years and even decades. The strange bit is that while these symptoms are not uncommon for those with a flu or stomach illness, cyclical vomiting occurs for no apparent reason. One day, you'll be completely fine, and the next, you'll be spending an entire day bent over a bucket or a toilet bowl. Obviously, this can really mess with a person, since sufferers are sometimes constrained to their beds for days trying to simply ride it out. And nobody is safe, as this syndrome affects all ages and is dangerous, as the frequent vomiting is extremely taxing on your body and can lead to severe dehydration. Number 5 is Brainerd diarrhea. This affliction involves mysterious outbreaks of intense diarrhea, the first of which occurred in Brainerd, Minnesota in 1983. The Brainerd outbreak affected 122 people and caused them to sit through 10 to 20 sessions of diarrhea every day, lasting for around 4 weeks. The symptoms include gas, abdominal cramps, fatigue, and weight loss, and most disturbingly, can last between 2 months to 3 years. There is no treatment for the condition, but it will eventually go away without any help. Only 7 known outbreaks have been reported since 1983, with 6 being in the United States and 1 outbreak on a South American cruise ship. Elderly are the most commonly affected, but there have been several cases of children and young adults contracting it. Scientists are not sure why this outbreak happens, but they do know that it tends to appear in about 50 to 100 people every 3 years, possibly due to some sort of bacteria or parasite outbreak. Well, here's hoping that you have good odds. Number 6 is 20th century disease. 20th century disease, known more formally as multiple chemical sensitivity or MCS, is a negative reaction caused by exposure to common chemicals used in modern products. Sufferers experience symptoms like nausea, vertigo, anxiety, fatigue, headache, difficulty breathing, and inflammation when encountering certain substances. The problem chemicals are incorporated into products like plastics, paint fumes, petroleum, synthetic fabrics, and scented items, just to name a few. But the worst part is that there is no confirmed answer as to why this chronic medical condition exists, and for some reason, symptoms only present when the subject is aware of their exposure to harmful chemicals. Tests involving placebos have shown that patients will still display symptoms when there is no physical exposure, meaning that there is likely a psychological factor. MCS can also be quite difficult to diagnose, since the symptoms involved are apparent in many other illnesses, and the environmental triggers are hard to single out because they're so commonly found everywhere. Number 7 is pica. Pica disorder has an extremely strange effect on those who develop it. They begin craving items that bear no nutritional value and that are not traditionally eaten or even edible for that matter. If you get pica, you'll start to develop an intense appetite for things like clay, dirt, plaster, paint, ice, hair, chalk, and metal, just to name some. Much like an episode of My Strange Addiction, people with pica disease will eat all sorts of unhealthy and disgusting things because they actually want to eat them. That's right, imagine intensely desiring to eat plaster off of your wall or couch cushion filling. It mainly seems to affect pregnant women, young kids, and people with developmental disabilities. However, doctors have no knowledge of the potential causes for pica, but there is some speculation around it being the body's reaction to having a mineral deficiency. Interestingly, the name for pica is actually the Latin word for magpie, which is a bird that seems to eat just about anything that it comes across. Number 8 is bleeding calf syndrome. Bleeding calf syndrome is a disease that very fortunately does not affect humans, but does spell a gruesome end for innocent calves. Calves that get this horrible syndrome will bleed profusely from their nose, ears, and skin. Like something out of a horror movie, calves who get this will have blood seeping from every orifice and will eventually bleed to death. Once the symptoms start, there's little that can be done to treat it, and the calves will usually die after a couple of days. It was first recorded in the United Kingdom in 2009, and so far scientists know that the bleeding is caused by the destruction of the calf's bone marrow. Bone marrow is responsible for creating platelets which help clot your blood and prevent it from leaving your body. Whatever is eating away at their bone marrow is a mystery, but it does present a threat to the species with a 95% mortality rate and a current death toll of over 2,000. Let's hope that this does not transfer to humans. Number 9 is Moebius syndrome. Moebius syndrome is an odd disease that affects the facial muscles, paralyzing them. If you got this, you'd lose the ability to perform even the simplest facial actions, like blinking, smiling, frowning, squinting, or even looking side to side. This can cause facial structures to change and droop, and it can cause people to think that they're unfriendly or mentally disabled. People with this syndrome have delayed speech due to difficulty in moving their lips and tongue, but with therapy, most can reach a level of speech that is understandable by others. However, as it progresses, it causes much more serious problems, including difficulty breathing and swallowing. Moebius syndrome is a genetic disease that can be inherited, but most commonly and scarily occurs at random, with no history of the disease in the family. This causes extreme difficulty when researching it, since it does not follow much of a pattern, but there is speculation that it forms as part of an environmental factor or genetic defect. And number 10 is Morgellons disease. Morgellons disease is an awful affliction that affects the mind and leads its sufferers to believe that they are being bit or stung all over their bodies by something. People who suffer from this believe that there are parasites all over their face and body. Another strange symptom involves reports of strange fibers protruding from the skin, which is made up of cotton. This disease will cause you to scratch and peel away at your skin, leaving large sores all over your body. The disease has presented itself in children as young as 2 years old, but most commonly affects middle-aged white women. Surprisingly, Canadian singer-songwriter Joni Mitchell diagnosed herself as suffering from Morgellons disease in 2010. While it's a serious affliction, not much is known or understood about the disease, which makes it even scarier to get. So, those were the 10 most bizarre diseases that science has yet to explain. So today's question is, do you know of another bizarre disease that you've either heard of or someone that you know has got that deserves to be on this list? As always, leave your response below because I'll be reading through them and I'll be pinning the best one to the top. Thank you very much for coming by today. If you enjoyed this, remember to hit that like button and don't forget to come back here tomorrow at 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time because I'll have a brand new video for you. I'll see you then.